spreading out your attachment to more than romantic partners. So, like, I know I would have more anxiety about my partners dating other people when I wasn't feeling connected to my friends who I'm not dating, or, you know, like my platonic relationships or my business relationships, or, you know, like having a full life outside of your romantic relationships, I think is like one of the best ways to feel more secure and like grounded in community.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from across the entire spectrum of non-monogamy to hear their fascinating stories. We strive to bring guests on the show who have a healthy approach to non-monogamy. However, it's important to remember that everyone does it a little bit differently, and the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we produce this show for entertainment purposes only. Please be aware that we aren't doctors or therapists. Consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Welcome to episode 274. We're Finn and Emma, and today we have an interview with Kate, who is the co-creator of Southwest Love Fest in Tucson, Arizona. She's also a therapist and has been non-monogamous most of her life.
Hey, Southwest Love Fest.
Yeah.
We should go there.
We are going there.
What?
Well, take away from the introduction about Kate here.
This is all about us. We do these interviews to talk about us. Now, Kate's going to talk about Southwest Love Fest later on, so we're not going to tell you all about it. But what we do want to tell you is that we're going to be there from April 14th to the 16th, and we're going to be doing an interactive workshop, and we believe it's going to be amazing. And if you use the offer code Emma when you check out, you get to save 10%, which is amazing for you, and it helps support the show financially, which is amazing for us. So thank you for that. And anyway, back to Kate. Let's make this about Kate.
Southwest Love Fest is going to be amazing.
Yeah. As Emma said, Kate's been non-monogamous pretty much her whole life and went to the Kinsey Institute back in the early 2000s. She's sort of in a functionally monogamous relationship. Now she's going to talk about all of that, but we have some great conversations on relating to metas, community parenting, and just the power of community in general.
It's awesome.
It's a fantastic conversation. So a huge thank you to Kate for coming on. Links to all of Kate's work, how to sign up for Southwest Love Fest, and her personal website, katekincaid.com, and her therapy website, her counseling practice, which, by the way, is amazingly extensive. I didn't even know that until I was pulling the link. This is an amazing practice that she's built. So hell yeah to that. Go check that out if you're looking for amazing support in your non-monogamy journey.
Yes. For anyone who is a premium subscriber, we're going to jump right into the interview with Kate now. And for anyone else, we're going to have a few quick announcements. First of all,
quick-ish.
Quick-ish. You know us. They'll be quick-ish.
This is, again, blackmailing you into the premium subscription.
Anyway, if you're not familiar with the premium subscription, it's a way to skip these announcements up front and support the show for as little as $2 a year. You can sign up on our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, and scroll to the bottom of the homepage and you'll find it there.
Yes.
Also, next up, we have a virtual meet and greet coming up in February. We actually had to move the date of this one, so it is now February 23rd. That's a Thursday evening, and we would love to have you join us. These meet and greets are super fun. They're open to anyone. You just must be open-minded and respectful.
And awesome.
And awesome. Yeah, you must be an awesome human.
And apparently flexible because we just move them.
We don't usually like to do that. I think
this is the first time we've done it. Let's give ourselves a break, Emma.
Yeah. Anyway, and we still have a few weeks ahead.
We do. And we hope to see you there. The next thing we wanted to talk about was community. Actually, this is a main thread of what we talk about with Kate today. So if you're looking for a community similar to the amazing one that Kate built in Tucson, we have a virtual community where everybody shows up all day, every day to support one another through family things, relationship issues, a little bit of sexiness in there, and just frankly building friendships with people all over the world who just get it.
Yes.
And so we would love to invite you, listener, to join us and the over 200 other amazing humans who have been part of this community for years. It's open to you as an amazing person for as little as $5 a month. And we have a men's group. We have a women's group. We're working on launching a non-binary person group, which we're super excited about. And we do monthly Q&As and all sorts of incredible stuff. Plus, we even smatter in.
Smatter in.
I think there's a
right.
smattering a smattering of in-person events as well.
Yes.
So you'd want to miss that. Go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Click on the community tab at the top. You'll see all the information there, and we would love to have you.
Also, a special bonus, if you do sign up for the community, you get access to the premium subscription included.
Yeah, but then you get to miss out on all of this joy.
Right.
Which truly...
Seems like a catch-22. People, we want people to do the premium subscription, but then you get to miss all of this fun banter.
Yeah, we also know some people sign up for the premium subscription and then listen to this anyway.
Right. Anyway.
Hey, you do you.
Yes.
The last thing we wanted to tell you about was our favorite way to get tested for STIs.
Surprise, surprise.
STDcheck.com. We have been using this service for years. We love it. It is amazing.
And you hear about us talk about it every week.
Because it's amazing.
Yes.
We only talk about shit that's amazing.
Yes.
It is fast, it is affordable, and it is, I think, amazing.
Yeah, it's dependable, too. We've been talking about this for years.
That's right. Hasn't gone away. At $129 for a 10-panel test, that's tough to beat. You get that price when you use the links on our website. You save $10, and you help support the show financially, and we are eternally grateful to you for doing that. That's how we eat.
It's partly.
You give blood, we get to eat dinner.
Yeah. I'm laughing because there's truth in that.
That is truth. So
thank you.
As the phlebotomist is drawing your blood, just remember it's the lifeblood of us.
Wow.
No guilt.
Wow.
No guilt.
Wow, you're pulling at the heartstrings here.
So to find out where you can feed us every night, you head over to normalizingnonmonogamy.com. You can click on the resources tab or in your podcast player show notes. There are links there. And those links, again, will save you $10 and it makes you an amazing human. Plus, then you get to have amazing conversations with your upcoming partners, your existing partners, past ones, even if you want. Sorry, I spit on Emma. She was a little taken aback. Don't worry, Emma. I got tested recently. It's okay.
Gonna say something and then I got spit on.
Yeah, be careful. I'll spit in your mouth.
Anyway, on that note, I think it's time
to tell people that they can reach out to us at normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Let us know what you think of these amazing intros in this podcast. Maybe you'd like to come on, share your story. You don't have to be the creator or co-creator of Southwest Love Fest.
No.
You just have to be awesome.
Yes. Just a quick reminder, and we say it all the time, our website is normalizingnonmonogamy.com, or you can type any of that into Google and find us.
Or ask Jeeves or ChatGPT.
Oh, jeez. Yes.
Anywhere you want. And I promise if we interview you, I will not spit in your mouth.
It'll be a virtual interview anyway.
That's likely. Why. Because otherwise, you're in the spray zone. It's like a Gallagher show here.
Okay, on that note, are you ready?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
Let's go talk to Kate. Well, welcome, Kate, to the podcast. We're so excited and happy you're here today. We would love to have you start just by introducing yourself.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kate Kincaid. I'm a therapist in Tucson, Arizona. And I specialize in working with people in ethically non-monogamous relationships, LGBTQIA plus people, and people working with psychedelics. And I'm also a mother of 2, and so that really informs my life and my therapeutic practice. So I also really like working with people in perinatal mental health stuff too. And then I'm the co-creator of Southwest Love Fest, which is an annual conference on ethical non-monogamy, relationships, identity, and community in Tucson, Arizona. And our next conference is in April of this year. Yeah.
Yay!
Spoiler alert, we may be there.
Yeah.
We may even be presenting there, so we're super thrilled for that.
Maybe.
We will be there,
Yeah.
and so will you, listeners. Yeah. All right. Super awesome. Thank you. And
we'll talk all about that in a little bit.
We will, but maybe we need to establish why non-monogamy for you, or even non-monogamy for you. Is that part of your personal journey as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. I think I've been non-monogamous as long as I can remember. When I first started falling in love with people in middle school and high school, and I didn't have a name for it. I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that I was dating somebody and also had a crush on my neighbor. And so trying to be open about it, but, as a young person and without any guidance or words for it, was not always ethical. Then I went to school at the Kinsey Institute at Indiana University and it was actually called an abnormal sexuality class. And that's where I learned about polyamory and like learned the words and that there's people doing this. And I was like, oh, so there's like this whole community and culture. And then I started researching it more and learning about it and then being honest with people that I was dating at the time about this is my orientation and how I want to do relationships. And yeah, so I've been ethically non-monogamous since then, I guess. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And non-monogamous since before then.
Yeah.
As you were trying to figure, it's so frustrating that like this is a thing that you've probably felt and there wasn't a framework.
Right.
And even when you show up at school, it's like now you're labeled as abnormal.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, hey, I just want this to be normal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
How was that journey for you coming out of exploring this in maybe less than ethical ways into now I have to reframe, restructure, and sort of reevaluate how you do it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, once I like knew there was a framework or like, that I could be talking about it with words like that, there's like definitions and social norms, then I felt like I had more of a structure and I could talk about it more. Before it was kind of like secretive and I like this other person, but I felt bad about it. There was a lot less shame once I had words for it. But still, I mean, that was in, 2002, 2003. And so that was like quite a while ago and things have changed a lot in just that short amount of time. I mean, it was a while ago, but also not that long ago. And it's changed so much since then. Like there were hardly any like depictions in media or like I had a hard time finding blogs or books or anything about it. Now I'm in this world and so I have a lot of resources and know where to go. But like, even without that, even in people who aren't in this world, it's a lot more accessible and people can Google it and find out. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what did the, I guess the structure look like for you in those first, you're cracking open your non-monogamy egg. What did the first kind of go look like for you?
Oh, it was rough. It was a lot of, so I had a boyfriend from like 8th grade until the end of college. So that's like 8 years, really formative years. What is that? Like 13 years old or 14 years old until 22 or something. I don't know. But there was a lot of cheating, both parts. We would cheat. We would find out from other people and then be like, sorry, and I should have told you. And it's like, well, we're not really mad that you cheated, but we're mad that you didn't tell me about it. And so then we would try to be a little bit like, don't ask, don't tell. Like, look, because I went to college where he didn't go. And so it's like, we're going to do whatever we want. And like, just don't tell each other. Or like, if you want to know, maybe we can talk about it. So that was kind of like how it started. Yeah, with that person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how did that go? It was like
a lot of drama, a lot of pain.
Well, I think what's interesting is what you said in there, though, that you weren't really mad about the act of cheating or the physical things that happened. It was more the deception and the hiding and the having to run around behind.
Yeah.
Did you two ever get to a point where you could sort of do it openly and supportively?
Kind of. Like we had some experiences all together. And there was like a couple of people that stayed in the orbit, like people that one or the other of us would be dating kind of like on and off for years. And so it was kind of like, well, that person's okay. And we could kind of like we could be in the same room together, but it was still not talked about openly. It was still kind of like, we know this is happening and it's like, okay, but it's not like, still, we didn't know that anybody was doing this. We thought we were like, just maybe didn't love each other enough or something, or I don't know, we were confused. We were young too.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many mistakes that are made. I mean, at all ages, but especially at that age, because we're not taught. We don't know. You're just trying to like fumble around and figure it out.
Right. And all your other friends are trying to be monogamous or are monogamous. And they're kind of like, you guys are crazy. What are you doing? Or like, you guys need to just end the relationship. Obviously you don't want to be together. And there's like, that's the advice you get from people around you. And so,
you're stubborn and don't want to break up.
Right. And we're like, well, but we have a lot of fun together and we love each other. And, things are good even despite the cheating, and
Yeah. The two camps have always been, right. You're a free love. You can go, if you're in college, right, you can go hook up with anybody, but don't get into a relationship. Or, well, I'm in a relationship and everything else gets put on the back burner or just completely shut off. And then you're trying to like swim in the ocean with all of these different things and you're going just kind of against it. Oh,
Right.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. And it's like, it's kind of also helped form my identity, or I always kind of liked being like, I kind of like shocking people or something, or my friends are like, you're crazy. And I'm like, yeah, well, one day maybe I'll have an open relationship. Or like when they had the words too, I started saying it and they're just like, I'm the only person any of them had ever met that like felt that way. And, so I kind of liked that. And now I feel like all my friends are non-monogamous. So I'm like, I'm not like cool and weird anymore. I'm like just like everybody else around me.
Thinking about monogamy again, just to go against the grain. I'm curious too, though. Was it even within the Kinsey Institute that you were still coming up against these sort of mononormative structures?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, like from where I came from, they were so progressive, But like now looking back, I would say some of what I was exposed to was still very mononormative, but that was also, over a decade ago. And I bet it's a lot different now.
Sure.
But yeah, like I said, like that class was called abnormal sexuality. And so it's like, even just not normalizing it, or like it's different than normal, which is kind of true, but also not really progressive, or like not about like affirming or normalizing this practice. Yeah.
It's labeling it as an other.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no dig on the Kinsey Institute. I mean, right. We all evolve with the times and they only know what they know at that point. Right. And so, I get that. It's really fascinating. Where did the journey take you coming out of there?
Well, I decided to go to grad school to become a therapist. And I just wanted to get out of Indiana. It was cold and Midwest, and I don't know. I just
in Indiana.
Yeah. And so I just applied places that were warm, and I got into ASU. So I moved out to Phoenix sight unseen, and was just focusing on grad school. I wasn't really even. I mean, I knew I wanted to do relationship therapy. Like all my classes at the Kinsey Institute, like my favorites were about relationships and sexuality. And so I knew I wanted to focus on that. And yeah, I'm trying to think. I didn't really date anybody. I was just kind of, I had somebody long distance, and he was also non-monogamous, and he was in New York and I was in Phoenix. And so we were kind of like, we would share about like small dates that we'd go on, but I was just really busy with grad school. And then I met one of my partners for a long-term partner at the end of grad school, and we decided to be in an open relationship together. And then I met my current partner while I was with that partner, and we were all kind of dating. Like, yeah, we had an arrangement, and now I live with my current partner, and I have 2 kids with him. And we're kind of like functionally monogamous, I'd say right now. Like just having kids is really intense and requires a lot of your time. And, we haven't really been able to like open back up, but we've talked about it, and he's interested. And so we might be doing that sooner than later. But yeah, just like function. And then with the pandemic too, like that was also another like damper on dating and all that. So
and life in general.
Yeah.
And somewhere along that way, it sounds like you ended things with that first boyfriend, where you two were sort of
after grad school.
Yeah. Yeah. And the cool thing about that ending was, I think, like one thing I love about non-monogamy is like endings can be really fluid, because it doesn't have to be like end this so you can start something else. It's like things can start and end at their own timelines. And so we're still kind of together while I was getting more serious with my current partner. And, but we just weren't aligned. We didn't want the same things in life. And so it just sort of naturally fell away.
Yeah, for sure. And along the path, sort of getting to where you are today, what ways have you seen yourself grow through this experience?
so many ways. I mean, definitely it showed me a lot of my like attachment stuff and like my styles and what happens when I'm stressed or threatened. The relationship I had, the one right before the one I'm in now, I had a lot of like anxious attachment or like a lot of controlling behaviors. And even though I was, setting out to be non-monogamous, it was all consensual. I just like really was uncomfortable with the way he was doing it and everything he was doing. And so it got me into like more serious therapy for myself and just healing some childhood stuff and some of that first relationship trauma with all the cheating and and so it just showed me all the areas that I needed to repair for myself and grow and heal. Yeah. And it's like a catalyst, it's like that may have come up in a monogamous relationship for me, but it's like, amplified when your partner's dating other people.
Yeah. I was just gonna I'm so glad that you brought that piece up because someone actually asked me the other day a question about how to do non-monogamy with attachment wounds and how that affects it. And so it feels like you kind of just touched on that briefly about for you, they may have come up. It was just more heightened with non-monogamy. Do you mind expanding a little bit about what that experience was like for you? And you're also because you're a therapist and you've worked with people, how do you view attachment and non-monogamy?
Yeah. Where to start with that?
It's a big question.
Yeah.
You don't have to go super deep. I just was curious to get your take.
Yeah. I mean, I love just learning. I think for people and myself to learn about attachment styles, one is not better than the other. It's just about knowledge and self-acceptance. And it's this is how I am in these situations and these are how I'm going to react. So you can kind of just know yourself and it can be somewhat predictive. And so it's not shocking when it comes up. It's I'm going to react this way because of my history and because of my style. I also like remembering that they're not static or that they can change and they can change in different relationships. And so it's information. So it's if this style is coming up really strongly in this relationship, that's just telling me this is how I am in this relationship. And here's what maybe needs to change or what I need to feel a little bit more secure or comfortable in this relationship. I like the idea of creating secure attachment with yourself or other people than your partner or partners. That can help, minimize some of the stronger reactions from either. I get more anxious. I don't know. I'm kind of a mix. I'm disorganized a little bit, anxious or avoidant or one or the other. So just knowing that about myself and then accepting it and then trying to create a secure attachment with self and friends, a bigger community.
Yeah. Which is so
rather than your one person.
Right. Which is, I was going to say, that's exactly what I was going to say is rather than putting, let's say, all of your attachment eggs in one basket and then that one gets triggered in some way and you're completely, dysregulated, having to find your way versus you're secure with yourself. And so sure, those things come up, but they don't rock your world quite as hard.
Right. Yeah.
And no easy task either.
No, and often that takes work with a therapist or a close friend or work on that.
Yeah.
Have you found some strategies for yourself that really worked? Because it sounds like you've sort of battled both ends of the disorganized attachment style. Have you found some strategies for yourself that work? Just maybe for other people listening that might be helpful.
Yeah. I think the most important lesson I learned, I guess relatively early on was spreading out your attachment to more than romantic partners. So I know I would have more anxiety about my partners dating other people when I wasn't feeling connected to my friends who I'm not dating or, my platonic relationships or my business relationships or, having a full life outside of your romantic relationships, I think is one of the best ways to feel more secure and grounded in community.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. And also, I just was thinking as you're talking about if anyone's not familiar with attachment styles that's listening and wants some more background, one book that would be really good is Polysecure, of course. That's like so good. And so definitely we recommend that. There's a lot of other resources out there too, but we'll put links to that in the show notes as well.
Yeah.
And if there's any other that you would recommend.
Yeah. Well, I know she just released a workbook too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I haven't looked at that yet, but I've heard good things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's coming to Southwest Love Fest too. So.
Yay! Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anybody listening, come to Southwest Love Fest in April in Tucson.
Well, I'll be there. Yeah. I love it. I think similarly, or maybe along those lines, about how you touched on how different relationships impact your attachment style differently, and you maybe show up differently. Have you found sort of for yourself a relational sweet spot, the sort of the utopia for you that feels the best, that you seem to feel most at ease in? Not that it's the only way you would accept it or that you don't want to push yourself.
That's a good question. I say that because I'm laughing at myself because it's like, so my partner before the one I'm with now, I felt very anxious in because he was kind of like more avoidant and like, I'm going to do what I want. You got to accept it, figure your shit out kind of thing. And then my current partner is much more like, I want you to be comfortable. And he's very like committed and like even sacrificial, I would say, where it's like, it's all about like my comfort. And that was such a balm from coming from my other relationship. Was like, oh, I can like relax and I know I can trust this person and, he will go at my pace or our pace. We'll figure it out together. And that helped me heal a lot of stress and anxiety I've had basically since I started being non-monogamous. But I've also noticed like now that it's so secure, I feel more avoidant. I'm kind of like, just go do your thing and like, leave me alone, or you know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm just like never satisfied. I don't know. So I don't know. I don't have really an answer yet.
I would just say, Kate, so relatable. I think that is a pattern that comes up often, right? And it gets talked about in Polysecure, right? If you're with an avoidant partner, it's not uncommon for somebody to be more anxious and trying to chase, right? You have that sort of chase thing. And if you are on the receiving end of the chase, sometimes you can be a little more like, give me a little bit of space here. You're stifling me. And I think we're just set up to fail as best I can tell. Like as humans, like we are set up to find the people who trigger us and force us into growth and facing all of these things. So.
Yeah. Well, it keeps it interesting too, right? I mean, like if I found something and I just was like secure and happy, I don't know. It's like, I'm like, I don't know if you know the Enneagram, but I'm a challenger on the Enneagram, an 8. And so it's like, I feel like I always have to kind of be having something that's challenging me. And so that's whether it's there or not, I might be creating it. And so now this is my new challenge, like the other end of the spectrum of the attachment stuff.
Yeah. And some of us are just built, some people are just built for the challenge and some people are not. And that's okay too. Some people find their comfort zone and they're like, this is just where I want to live. And that's okay. Like there's nothing wrong with that. And then other people are like, give me all the hard shit. And I don't know if I want to keep going, but I'm going to keep going because I'm still going to make the choice to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we are familiar with the Enneagram. I'm glad you brought that up. It is interesting to learn how different personality types show up in relationships. And we learned last year when we did a little bit of digging into the Enneagram that I'm a 9 and Finn is a 1. And so learning how those impact each other. And we actually recorded some episodes too, so that we can link those in the show notes as well about that from last year. But,
so the 9 is the peacemaker, right?
Correct.
And what's 1? I forget what 1 is.
I don't know the official term, but I think it's basically perfectionist.
Oh, okay.
So my there's a there's no baggage
to that
there.
Episode.
No baggage there at all.
Yeah, we dive deep in that conversation for sure.
Cool.
So it was it's just fascinating how learning about personality types and to me, I feel like there's so much just we aren't taught growing up. Some people are, but most in society in general, we aren't taught these things. And like, as you start to uncover, it's like, oh, this stuff makes sense. Like personality types, even attachment wounds, attachment styles, all of these different things help put the pieces of a relationship together, and it starts making sense of why maybe you've made the decisions you've made, or things have gone in your life the way they've gone. And
yeah,
cool.
And that's the work, right? It's just like more self-awareness and knowing all these different parts of yourself, so that you are aware, and then you can also share that with your partners, and they can be doing the same work. I think that's the rewarding part of relationships.
Yeah, well, and I think that's a great place to sort of transition to a conversation about for yourself. What have been the most rewarding parts of the journey? It sounds like for the last 20-ish years that you've sort of been on it. What do you find rewarding and that keeps you coming back through all of the hard challenges that you come up against?
Yeah. I think it's like the relationships, the like metamour relationships. I've talked about this sometimes, is that I feel like the metamour relationships are like the glue that holds it together, or like they're not the only glue, but it's like those have been the most rewarding for me, is like the relationships outside of my romantic partnerships that have been super rewarding. And like some of those have lasted longer than the romantic relationship that we were introduced through. And yeah, just like really great friendships that have come from that.
With your partner's partners.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever found yourself transitioning a metamour friendship into a metamour romantic relationship?
Like starting to date a metamour? I never have. No.
I was just curious because I know that's something. Yeah, we've heard people who've had that journey as well, and then it's. But maybe this is a great question about managing metamour relationships and how they relate to your partner relationship. We've had some people who've written in or talked about with us recently where they've perhaps. I'm trying to think of the scenario without giving too much away, but basically they started a relationship with a really close friend of their like long-term spouse, and so now they're dating, like it'd be like me dating Emma's best girlfriend, and then us trying to say, okay, well now how do we balance? Emma's best friend is now dating me and I want a whole bunch more time, and we're spending time, and now Emma feels like she's not having friends with her best friend. How do you manage that sort of delicate balance of relationships, friendships, ecosystem?
Yeah. That's a
easy
good question. Yeah.
Passing along our listener questions to our guests now.
Yes, right. Solve this for us.
I mean, I actually can think of a situation that was somewhat similar to that, or like it was the person I was friends with who then became my metamour. And so it was kind of hard. Or there were and things that was with my other partner who it was kind of I was leaving or like transitioning out of, and so things were kind of like sad and hard in a way with that person, and so it just required a lot more conversations with me and that metamour / friend. And in some ways, I think it brought us closer than we would have been even just friends, because we were like processing our own feelings about this other person together. So just lots of conversations, I guess it would be the answer to the question of just like, which seems just simple and trite, but like, that's like kind of all you can do.
For sure. But it's also interesting. You said that you two had sort of the opportunity to compare and sort of lived experiences with this partner, but you're sort of, if I caught this right, like you were ramping down as they were ramping up. And so I think if we were to map that to mononormative culture, that's you ain't dating my ex. Like, what are you thinking? You know, you see somebody breaking up with somebody and you're like, oh, they're open now. I'll, you know, I've always, you know, kind of fancying them. And then like, that's a huge faux pas to go after your best, you know, your friend's ex.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we kind of talked about that, or like, is this weird? Are you okay with this? I feel like I'm breaking a rule, or, you know, and I was, cause it was like, I mean, some of those old tropes would come in, but it's like consciously trying to not listen to them, or, you know, like undo some of those tropes. And like, and same for me, like, I mean, some of my trauma with my first partner, like he would sleep with my friends. And so that was like painful for me, you know? And so, yeah, I don't know. It felt like healing in a way to like have it above board and to talk about it. And like, this feels hard and confusing, but also like, I love you and I know you care about me and we're just trying our best. So it felt very healing.
Yeah.
I think it is healing to take all the, like you said, all the tropes, all of the things that are pumped into us, and then like flip them on their head and just sort of get rid of them and say, yeah, you know, we're supposed to be enemies here, but why do we need to be? Like, you now like this person. I still love this person perhaps, but we're not meant to be in this way. And we can just sort of transition fluidly, maybe not easily, but fluidly from one to another.
Yeah. And actually, I mean, they didn't end up dating that long. And some of the stuff she was processing with me about her relationship with him helped solidify me wanting to leave him too. And so like, it just was like perfect timing, or, you know, it was kind of meant to be. It felt like this person that I really loved and trusted, like kind of came in at the right time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned that your relationship now is kind of, monogamous in a way because of the way it's structured, just the time of life you're in. I'm curious, like moving forward, do you have an ideal relationship structure that you're wanting to strive for, or that you're wanting to create at some point?
Yeah, we talk about that a lot, or like, it's like this dream. I mean, especially with raising kids, it's really hard. And so like, it would be nice to have more adults, you know, and like, you know, dating other people who are like in that same stage of life who are also raising kids. We could share childcare duties, share pickups and drop offs. And so kind of more of like this familial, like co-parenting thing is like my ideal right now. That was actually my ideal before I even have kids, or that was one of the reasons I was so attracted to non-monogamy, was like the possibility of having kids with multiple people. So it's not so stuck in the nuclear family of like just two parents, like, you know, projecting all their stuff onto these kids. It's like they can have multiple attachment figures and multiple people that love them, because we don't have a lot of extended family around. And so that's kind of, I think, what attracts me to that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and then you can shift the blame if something's messed up later. Like, hey, that wasn't me. That was your metamour. So,
exactly.
No, I'm just playing. But I think that's so valid. And we've heard so many people talking about that. Actually, lately, we've heard a lot of people coming on and sharing, like, being able to spread out parenting duties and family duties. And, you know, I mean, the old adage that it takes a village hasn't changed. If anything, it's gotten more as we've taken on more and more and more. Like, our time is less. So I would love if you are open to sharing a little bit about your experience so far in raising two kids through polyamory, and how you and your partner or partners sort of find that balance and manage that, because I know that's a big one that comes up for people as well.
Yeah. It's interesting because so my partner has two other kids with his ex-wife. So he got married young. They had kids. So he's got a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old. And then we have a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old. So we kind of already had a blended family. Like my two kids already have like two older siblings that are kind of like aunt, uncle ages. And then his ex-wife is also still in the picture. We do dinners together. She watches my kids sometimes. And so it feels a little bit like a blended family. Like she's kind of like a metamour, but they're not romantic anymore, but they're friends and co-parents. And then we have another good friend who has a baby herself. And so we share a lot. Like when she goes out of town, we watch her baby. When we go out of town, she watches ours, and just a lot of sharing. So none of them are romantic, but they feel very like committed relationships, like, and like blended family. And we've talked about like if we did ever start dating people, like how to like fold them in, and like we would be totally open about it with our kids. Like our kids will already know, like from the get-go, that we don't like believe in monogamy, or like we don't practice monogamy. We're not trying to be monogamous. Yeah.
Yeah. Age appropriate as they get there.
Yeah. So like right now they're kind of like, sorry.
I was going to say, I think 7 months is about the age when you can start letting them talking about attachment and those types of things.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's cool because like they are very attached already to, like my partner's ex-wife and our friend who they call TT. And so like we can see the attachments forming, and kids attach so easily. They just love everybody,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And I'm glad that you're able, even if the community you have around you right now isn't necessarily like romantic, it doesn't take away, like it doesn't have to be, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't take that away. It's still beautiful, and you can find support and attachment with the people that you want to.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. I was curious along your journey, again, roughly 20 years, you obviously went to the Kinsey Institute, went to school as a therapist to become a therapist. Were there other sort of experiences, resources, things along the way that you went through that kind of helped formulate and guide your path? Because there's so many different ways you could not end up, but like do non-monogamy. There's almost as many people as are doing it different ways, but you sort of found your path, and maybe what was sort of the guiding light for that?
Yeah, I mean,
it could have been internal, right? I'm sure there's so much of it that's internal.
I think some of it was internal, but I think, it's kind of like who you end up with or who ends up around you. And, we ended up in Tucson, and we started this little community. Like, I don't think I've talked about this yet, but it's like, when I was dating my previous partner, we were each dating somebody else, and they were each dating somebody else. And so we all got together and we're like, let's do this like monthly thing where we get together and we pick a topic and we like talk about it. And that grew pretty quickly to be like 300-400 people in town. And so we were having these like potlucks and discussion groups. And so I feel like that really informed a lot of the people who were showing up. Like we were learning together. We were like creating norms together. We were saying like, here's what worked for us. And so I feel like that really was like foundational for like how I was practicing.
Yeah. That's amazing that you started that and grew to that size in the area.
Yeah.
Are you still doing that group?
No, not really. It kind of fell off. It's still in existence, but it's not really, nothing's happening. Every once in a while, somebody will like plan a happy hour. But I think there was this magical moment of like a core group of like about 40 people that were like really holding it together. And like a lot of them moved away or got older, had kids or whatever. And we kind of just like don't get together anymore as much. Yeah.
Well, but even for that time that it sort of did exist, it sounds like the impact that community had, that just community as a unit, as an entity had on your journey was huge.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that like we can really relate to, having built a community and being a part of it for the last, let's say 4 years, and the previous 13 or so years that we didn't, is a drastic difference for us. And I'd love to hear from your perspective, Kate, what are some of the benefits that you felt when you were surrounded by that community?
Just a lot of like knowing looks, or like, you're sharing about your situation and people just get it. They just know what you're talking about and they're struggling with the same thing. And then also just sharing a lot of wisdom, like, well, I don't know if this is right, but this is what I tried and it helped. And it's like, oh, I never would have thought of that. Or like, that's such a good idea, or like we should try, and then going home with my partner, like we should do what so and so was doing. That seemed like that helped, and so just like a think tank of like ideas and sharing wisdom and support. And then like also that was the time when I realized I was putting all my attachment eggs in my romantic relationship basket, and was like, no, consciously spend more time with these people who are friends that I can talk about this stuff with. And so some like deep friendships formed out of that made me feel more secure in my life. And, then I was more secure in my relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I couldn't agree more. And I think too, there's another one that sometimes comes up for me where I'll see or hear somebody talk about what they're doing, and I'll be like, well, that seems treacherous, but okay, let's see. And then like 6 or 8 months later, you're like, hey, they're still okay. It's working. Like, and I think for me, it helps expand my vision of what is possible and what we can do as people. And what we can do with other people, because you see some different things going on that you're like, man, I don't know how that's ever going to work. And then it works. And you're like, okay, well, hey, look at me. We just learned something new.
Yeah. And it's just inspiring, like seeing things work or seeing people that have been together for years or whatever. And not that that's the only measure of success, but
right.
It's like, oh, it feels positive or inspiring. It's like, oh, it is possible, or people have found ways that work. And so I can too.
Exactly. Yeah. And the idea that there isn't a right way. And because there's sometimes people will say, we'll hear comments like, oh, well, you shouldn't be doing it that way. And it's like, it's also working really well for them and everybody in their orbit. And so again, I think the notion of the right way is sort of a bit of a misplaced, I don't know, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah. How I maybe tying it into community, how open are you with your family and maybe friends who aren't part of that community, the world that's not non-monogamous? How open with those people in your life are you?
I'm pretty open. I mean, it's like I post about it a lot on social media, and they all know about this conference that I run that's pretty open about what the conference is about. And like my therapy profile talks about it. And so like professionally, I'm open to. And so, I mean, I don't like have deep conversations with my family about it. And my brother's actually pretty unsupportive and like I would even say bigoted about it. But we have a strained relationship anyway. And so I don't even know if it's really about the non-monogamy. It might be about something else that he's mad about. I don't know. But so we don't talk about it at all. And he sometimes gives me shit if I do post something. But friends, like I would say now most of my friends, my close friendships are also non-monogamous. But even the ones that aren't, just know that that's a big part of my life, and we can talk very openly about it.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. And that leads me, I guess, you mentioned the conference, and I'm just curious, what led you to create Southwest Love Fest?
Well, Sarah and I, who I met through that community that I was just talking about, like we met at a potluck and we saw each other at several potlucks. And then I think we decided to go to a conference together, the one in Atlanta, which I don't even remember the name now. I think it was like Atlanta Poly
Weekend?
Yeah, Atlanta Poly Weekend. So we went to that in whatever year that was, like 2016 maybe or something. And like, this is really cool. We should like do something local, because it was expensive to get all the way out there. And we're like, we have such a good community, and we knew some people in Phoenix too. And we're like, let's just create something here. And then I think I was like, well, let's invite some of these people from like other national places, or like other people like in New York and stuff like that, and just see if they want to come. And so we did, and they did, and it was just like a bigger conference than we had planned, and it kind of just like planned itself from then on out. It was like people after the first one, people were already trying to buy tickets for the next year, and we were like, we don't even know if we're doing another year, and but we're like, I guess we should, and so it just kind of like always kept it going itself, and so yeah, that's how it's grown.
Yeah. When was the first one?
I think it was 2018. Yeah.
Well, it's nice too. Now the conference plans itself, you don't have to do any work, so that's amazing.
I wish.
Like,
yeah.
She's like, I haven't slept in a month, so thanks.
Yeah, it's still a lot of work, but a lot of the like foundation is there. We just have to plug it in.
So what does Southwest Love Fest look like for somebody who's never been to one of these conferences in quotes, but for your conference in particular, because I imagine they're not all exactly the same.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say what this year will be like. So I'll just tell a little history of it. Like we started in 2018. It was bigger than we thought the first year. And then the second year, it like tripled in size. 2019 was like 400 some people. And then 2020, we were going to do a whole hotel takeover. It was going to be even bigger. And then it was the pandemic. And so we canceled it. And then 2021, we did online. And 2022, we did just a smaller conference. It was only like 75 people. And so this is our first year that we're kind of like going back to 2019 style and size. But the goal is just like, it's like kind of like an academic conference meets like regional Burning Man event. Like it's just supposed to be like really fun. People can be self-expressive. There's going to be like interactive workshops. So not just like heady talking workshops, but like massage workshops and cuddle parties and art workshops and kind of just like a lot of fun ways to express yourself and like get to know yourself and your relationships.
Yeah. I love it. And what if somebody's maybe not non-monogamous? Would it still be a good place for them to show up and hang out for the weekend?
Definitely. Yeah, there's so many different topics like this year. Like that's why we changed the name. It used to just be like Southwest Love Fest, a conference on ethical non-monogamy, but now it's about relationships. So all relationships, even if you're not interested in non-monogamy, you can learn about your own like monogamous relationships, your own like gender identity, sexual orientation. And then we're also talking about like family, community, parenting. And then we're also bringing in some stuff about psychedelics this year because that's a passion of mine. And so it's like a variety show. There's going to be so many different topics.
That's amazing.
And I'm super excited.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And how about maybe a little bit about your work outside of that? I mean, that's not all you do. And we'd love to send anybody your way, both for Southwest Love Fest and for your other work.
And links to sign up for the conference are in the show notes. So we encourage people to go and find out more there.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a group private practice in Tucson and in Salt Lake because I want to be a snowbird. I want to spend my winters in Salt Lake where we have a lot of friends and family. But my practice is really specialized on relationships, but also psychedelics. So we do psychedelic integration therapy. So that's if you're doing your own medicine work, either in like above ground or underground or other countries, but then you can come to us to do talk therapy and process the insights that you're having through that work. And then we do ketamine assisted psychotherapy in our practice. So people would do like a psychiatric eval with our nurse practitioner or our naturopathic doctor, and then would do the ketamine assisted psychotherapy sessions with us, which are like 3-hour medicine sessions, where we kind of dive into, we use IFS, internal family systems, and somatic psychotherapy to learn about, like, connect with yourself, learn about yourself, process trauma. Make big changes in your life. It's awesome work. I love it.
Yeah. It's powerful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. And if people are interested in learning more, where can they find you?
I have a personal website, katekincaid.com. And then, my Tucson practice is called Tucson Counseling Associates, all one word. And that's the website too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, links for those will be in the show notes for sure. Mm-hmm. Do you have a few more minutes for a couple other fun questions, perhaps?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
All right. So one question that we love to ask people, and we probably should have given you a heads up, but we didn't. So here we go. We love to talk about bloopers. So they don't have to be sexual necessarily, but just sometimes to lighten the idea that non-monogamy doesn't always go the way we plan.
Or relationships don't go the way they planned.
Or anything, sex doesn't go the way we plan. And we find ourselves in hilarious situations. And if you had one that comes to mind, or 2 or 7, that you wanted to laugh about with us, we would love to share that laugh with you. And feel free to take a minute and think about it. We can edit all of the waiting.
Well, I don't know if it's not really that funny, but it's kind of funny. Or like, as a therapist in town, like I can't date my clients and my partners can't date my clients. And so like I used to have to like run them, or my partner would have to like ask me like, do you know this person? And I'm not even supposed to say that's a client, but I would be like, no, right. You can't go on a date with that person. And that's like, you have to just leave it at that. Mm-hmm. And so that happened a few times. I'm like, I can't date that person because I don't know, all my clients are so cool too. And so I don't know, it just felt like a really small world sometimes. And then especially like I was one of only a few therapists in town who were like known as the non-monogamy therapist. And so it's like everybody would refer people to me. And so it definitely limited like the dating pool for me and my partners.
Yeah, it's like a different way to veto.
Yeah. And there was definitely times though, like, I mean, I used to have to kind of get used to it. Like I'd have to get comfortable with some level of closeness. Like you can be in the same community or you can even be at the same like potlucks or discussions, but like just not like dating my circle of people, you know?
Yeah.
Such a tricky line to walk.
Well, and navigating the confidentiality too. Like you can be in public settings and stuff, but you can't acknowledge.
Right.
So it's like it's kind of this mental game in some ways that you have to do.
Yeah. And then like I don't go to sex parties anymore or lately, unfortunately. But like when those were happening, sometimes like I would have to see the guest list, and I'm like, oh, I can't go because of this or that, or. Like, I remember one time, though, like, a handy person that I had hired was, like, on the guest list. And I was like, oh, my gosh, it's such a small town. I don't want to see my handy person at this sex party.
That's the stuff movies are made of, Kate.
Yeah. Smaller towns can have a lot of benefits and make it tricky sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I can also just picture like the disappointment on your partner's face when they're like, oh, I'm interested in this person. You're like, nope. And they're like, grrr.
Yeah, I know. I think it was harder for my partners than for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Cause they can't do anything. It's like, they're just,
I'd be in all long distance relationships. Like, you know what? Forget this.
Yeah. That makes it easier.
In some ways and much harder in others.
True.
I'm curious if what
go for it.
Well, you brought up sex parties, and that got omitted from your story pre work conversation. Is that it sounds? I mean, it's whatever level you're comfortable talking about that. It sounds like that was part of the journey for you, an exploration. When did that come into play, and how was that? Again, at whatever level you're comfortable, we don't need to.
Yeah. I feel like that was like early days of like opening up my relationship like ethically and like, oh, I can do all these things. I was also like, how old was I? I would have been like late 20s. And I think I was just like really social. I was like in a really social period of my life. And that was just like a fun way to socialize. And like, I think Craigslist was even around at that time too. And it's like things could get organized that way. And it was like kind of anonymous. And like a lot of times we went to these parties and we were like, walk in and walk out. Like we're not, no, this is not our crew. But it was just kind of like an adventure, you know, like an adventurous time in my life.
I totally relate to that. Emma and I have been to a fair number of various clubs and parties and gatherings, and you know, sometimes it's fun to go to the ones that you've been to a whole bunch and you know people, and sometimes there's really nothing that can compare to like the a little bit of fear, but the excitement of walking into a thing that you're just like, I don't know, they call it an orgy, or they call it a sex party or whatever, and you're like driving down the road and you're like looking at the neighborhood and you're like, where am I? What does my life come to? And
then you walk in sometimes, and sometimes you do leave.
Turn around and walk right out.
Yeah. It's a rush, or like it's fun.
Yeah.
But
it's a way to find your people too.
Yeah.
Like that's a fun way to do it too. Like, you know, if you choose to leave or not, like it's that's not, if you choose to leave a party, that doesn't mean that it's a bad party.
Right.
It just might not be for you. It might not be your scene. And so it's fun to like try them out.
Yeah. And it's still an adventure, like with your partner or partners that you go with, like getting all dressed up and getting excited. And then like, even if you stay or like you meet a few people and you have like something to process and laugh about later or whatever, it's just like a whole bonding experience.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, it's a bonding adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
That's something that we encourage people to do, right? When they're thinking about like, oh, we're not sure if we want to do non-monogamy or one of us is interested in the other one. We'll often say like, go to a party.
Yeah.
Don't go with any intention to even get involved.
Yeah.
But just go and be in the space, see what the people are like, see what you feel, what comes up for you, what comes up for the two of you. And then you have a thing you can go and talk about and probably fuel fantasies and fun for a while.
Yeah.
As you then, now you're like baking that in and also taking it with a grain of salt and saying, okay, well, that was strange or that was whatever. Let's do another one at a different place and like, I don't know, let's get some data points here. And maybe it's because I'm a scientist, but I just enjoy like the act of like studying these things. So,
yeah. Lots of good stories and memories from those adventures for sure.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, is there anything, Kate, that we haven't talked about that you would want to bring up?
I don't think so. No. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Did you have anything else?
No, other than we're excited to see you in Tucson in a couple of, well, let's call it like 2-ish months.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so soon.
Thanks for reminding me. I thought this thing planned itself, Kate. All right. Well, have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you in a few months.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice to meet you both.
And we're back. Thank you so much, Kate, for coming on and sharing your story and for all of the amazing work you do in your therapy practice and also with Southwest Love Fest. A quick reminder, you can, in the show notes, find the links to sign up for Southwest Love Fest. We would love to have you join us. It's April 14th through the 16th in Tucson, Arizona.
Yes. Thank you, Kate, for all the work you do and for inviting us out to SWILF.
Yes.
I'm calling it SWILF from now on.
Sure.
I think it's awesome. Also, thank you for hanging in there through that intro. I know that was amazing.
Yeah, that was an amazing intro.
Emma's currently wearing her face mask.
Because of this.
The face shield.
This face shield.
The face shield like she's a dentist.
Yeah, for the spit takes.
Also, one apology we wanted to issue to the state of Indiana.
Just in general.
We took a little dig at Indiana, and I just want to say, Indiana, we love you. At least you're not Ohio.
Right, yeah.
In Ohio, we love you.
Yes.
These are Midwest jokes.
Yes.
We save them for the outro. Hopefully all the Indiana fans haven't they didn't turn it off. They probably didn't even make it here.
We love everyone in Indiana and Ohio.
That's correct.
A few other quick announcements before we let you go. A reminder that our virtual meet and greet is on February 23rd this month. So you can sign up at our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. And we already talked about Southwest Love Fest. So you already know about all that. So I don't need to repeat that.
You don't. So
anything else?
I don't have anything else at the moment other than, let me check my notes. I do have a thing.
What?
Kate talked about the fact that she's the co-creator of SWILF.
Oh, yes.
We are, you wouldn't believe this, we're interviewing the other co-creator in just a few days, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sarah will be on the show to talk about her story, which we happen to know will be amazing.
Yes.
And even if it's not, we will hype it up like it is.
Yes, exactly.
And you'll never know the difference.
So stay tuned. That will be coming. But next week, we have a different interview with Susan.
I just want to be clear that I do believe it will be an amazing conversation.
Oh my gosh, it will be. But
we're not doubting you, Sarah.
We're confusing people because we're talking about Sarah and now Susan too.
Yeah.
So Sarah's going to be coming in a few weeks. Susan is next week.
I feel like we're in that Mambo No. 5 song.
Yes.
A little bit of Susan.
Oh, jeez.
Anyway, Susan is next week. Susan is, again, another amazing story. We can't wait. Next week we'll be here in a jiffy. We'll see you then, right?
Yeah, I think that's it. Go sign up for Southwest Love Fest.
And our virtual meet and greet.
And our virtual meet and greet.
And the community.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know, we're just hanging on for dear life here. So let's wrap it up.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.